In the heart of the whispering woods, where the light ebbed and flowed like a gentle tide against the gnarled trees, Alex wandered, entranced by the intricate patterns of sunlight filtering through the leaves. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and wildflowers, and every step felt like a dance with nature. Here, amongst the towering oaks and vibrant underbrush, Alex always found solace, a place away from the clamor of everyday life in the small town of Eldridge. Today, however, the woods held a different kind of magic, one that pulsed beneath the surface, beckoning him further into its embrace. With each stride, Alex's heart raced in tandem with his curiosity. His friends, Sarah and Ben, had stayed back near the winding stream, challenging each other to see who could throw the biggest rock. Their laughter echoed faintly, a comforting reminder of the camaraderie they shared. But Alex felt a stronger call deep within the forest, a whisper of something hidden that flickered in the corners of his mind, urging him to discover its secrets. As he ventured deeper, the trees grew denser, their trunks twisted and gnarled as if they were ancient guardians of the forest's mysteries. The deeper he went, the more a sense of history enveloped him. The atmosphere shifted. Sunlight became dappled with shadows, and the air hummed softly, as if the woods were breathing alongside him. After a few moments, Alex stumbled upon a small clearing where the sunlight broke through the canopy, illuminating an oddly shaped stone protruding from the ground. Intrigued, he approached, brushing away layers of moss and dirt. The surface was etched with symbols, curved lines and angular shapes that seemed to swirl and dance among the patterns. They shimmered under his touch, an enchanting luminescence that sent a thrill coursing through him. The moment his fingers made contact, a warmth flooded through him, as if the stone had come alive, awakening something dormant inside. A tingling sensation spread from his fingertips to his core, pulling him into a vision that transcended time and space. He saw an ancient civilization, their people adorned in vibrant colors, celebrating under the very trees that surrounded him. He felt their joy, their unity, and the pulse of their culture flowing through him. But then darkness crept in, shadows wrapping around their celebration, a harbinger of loss and despair. The vision faded, and Alex stumbled back, breathless and shaken. "What was that?" he murmured, staring at the artifact with a mix of fear and fascination. He knew that this stone was not just an ordinary rock. It was a key to something immense, something that could reshape his understanding of the world. With the artifact clutched tightly in his hands, Alex turned to head back, anxious to share his discovery with Sarah and Ben. As he retraced his steps, a rush of excitement swirled within him. He imagined their faces when he unveiled the artifact, the questions that would spill forth like water over a dam. But lurking just beneath the surface was a shadow of apprehension. Would they believe him? Would they understand how momentous this find was? Emerging from the trees, Alex found Sarah and Ben perched on the bank, their laughter mingling with the babbling of the stream. The moment he approached, however, their expressions shifted from joy to concern. The look on his face must have told them something momentous had transpired. "Alex, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost," Sarah exclaimed, her brow knitted with worry. I found something," he stammered, breathless from his sprint back. He opened his hand, revealing the artifact. The moment it came into view, the air around them seemed to crackle with energy. "What is that?" Ben asked, leaning forward, his eyes wide with interest. I don't know exactly, but it feels important. Look at the symbols." Alex's voice brimmed with anticipation as he gestured to the intricate carvings, now sparkling in the fading sunlight. "Dude, that's wild," Ben said, his tone shifting from curiosity to disbelief. "But what are you going to do with it? You can't just keep it. What if it belongs to someone? This could be a chance to uncover history. Remember the stories about Eldridge being built over lost civilizations? This could be a part of that," Alex argued, a fervor igniting in his chest. "We can figure this out together." But the hesitation in Sarah's gaze was palpable. "What if it attracts unwanted attention? You don't know what you've stumbled upon, Alex." "It could be dangerous," she cautioned, her eyes darting toward the forest, as if it might leap out and lay claim to them. "Dangerous or not, I can't just leave it there," he replied firmly, a hint of determination edging his voice. "I feel like it's calling to me. I need to know more." And so, the seed of curiosity was planted, stretching its roots into the soil of their friendship. Over the next few days, the artifact consumed Alex's thoughts, and as he sat in his room under the dim light of a desk lamp, He researched every scrap of lore he could find about ancient civilizations lost to time. But with each new piece of information, the weight of the unknown pressed down on him. He began to notice peculiar changes. His dreams were haunted by faces from the past, and the woods seemed to whisper his name each time he drew near. As the sun set each evening, he found himself drawn back to the clearing, the whispering forest becoming both a confidant and an enigma. He understood now that the artifact was more than just a relic. It was a beacon, a catalyst for adventures yet to unfold. Yet, with each encounter, sparks of conflict ignited as his friends expressed their growing concern, not understanding the depth of his obsession. He felt a rift forming between them, an invisible divide that threatened their unbreakable bond. "Alex, this isn't just about you anymore," Sarah insisted one evening, her brow furrowed in frustration. "You need to think about how this is affecting all of us. It's not just a rock, it's a part of something bigger. Can't you see that?" He retorted, defensive, but recognition flickered in his heart. He realized that his unbridled enthusiasm had blinded him to their fears, and in turn, that was straining their friendship. As the conflict simmered, strange occurrences began to plague Eldridge. Locals spoke of shadows flickering at the edge of their vision, and animals seemed to act out of sorts, skittish and anxious. Whispers of a curse began to circulate among the townsfolk, the skepticism giving way to delusion as fearful glances were exchanged. Alex could sense the change, and it gnawed at him. Had the artifact disturbed something that should have remained buried? Confusion and guilt tangled within him as he grappled with the implications of his discovery. Then one day, after a particularly heated argument with Sarah, something shifted. He stood alone in the clearing, clutching the artifact, when a thought crystallized in his mind, a way to bridge the rift and restore their unity. This journey was meant to be shared, a quest that knitted them together through the fabric of history. Determined, Alex turned back toward the town, his resolve stronger than ever. He would unravel the mystery of the artifact, not for himself, but for the three of them. As the moonlight poured down, its silvery rays dancing upon the artifact, Alex felt a surge of hope. He stepped out of the shadows of conflict and into the light of opportunity. The adventure that awaited them was woven with threads of friendship, history, and perhaps a touch of magic. Dangerous yet alluring, captivating yet nerve-wracking. With three determined friends set on a path of exploration, the shadows that hung over Eldridge would either bring them together or tear them apart. The artifact was only the beginning, its true power yet to reveal itself as they delved into the heart of the mystery and the ancient civilization that had once thrived within the confines of the Whispering Woods. Together, they would learn that some histories must be unearthed, while others might be better left undisturbed. The forest watched, holding its breath for what was to come. As Alex stood in the dim light of the abandoned warehouse, the artifact pulsed softly in their hands, a swirling mix of colors that seemed to dance and flicker like a flame caught in a gentle breeze. The weight of its power felt both exhilarating and terrifying. They could sense its potential, but with it came an awareness of the dangers that lurked just beyond the edges of their consciousness. In that moment, the thrill of discovery began to seep into the back of Alex's mind, weaving a tapestry of doubt and curiosity. The next few days passed in a blur as Alex immersed themselves in research, scouring through ancient texts and forgotten tomes. But it was only when they stumbled upon the name of a long-forgotten scholar that the pieces started to come together. Dr. Elena Darcy was known for her work in ancient civilizations and their artifacts. If anyone could help Alex understand what they held in their grasp, it would be her. With trepidation in their heart, Alex made their way to the university where Dr. Darcy lectured. The campus was alive with the chatter of students, but Alex felt like a ghost drifting through the throngs of people. The air was thick with anticipation. They weren't just on a quest for answers. They were on the brink of something monumental. When Alex finally found Dr. Darcy's office, they took a deep breath and knocked. The sound of scattered papers and hurried footsteps followed from within before the door swung open to reveal a woman in her 50s. Her curly gray hair framed a face weathered by time and experience, her keen blue eyes glinting with curiosity as they met Alex's. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice a blend of warmth and authority. I need to talk to you about an artifact," Alex stammered, feeling a rush of urgency as they stepped inside. They quickly explained how they had come across it, the visions it had inspired, and the ominous sense of being watched that had crept into their life since its discovery. Dr. Darcy listened intently, her brows knitting in thought. Artifacts like that often carry more than just history. They can hold immense power. They also have a way of drawing attention, both good and bad. We'll need to be cautious, Alex. With that assurance, a mentorship blossomed between them. Dr. Darcy began to share her knowledge, guiding Alex through dusty scrolls and cryptic inscriptions. They pored over stories of ancient tribes who had used similar artifacts, some for enlightenment, others for brutality. As the days turned into weeks, Alex began to wrestle with the realization that the power of the artifact was not merely academic. It was palpable, sparking visions and whispering secrets untold. During this time, Alex shared their discoveries with a small circle of friends, including Mia, a tech-savvy skeptic, Jamal, the creative thinker with an affinity for the supernatural, and Nora, who had a knack for getting into trouble. Together, they formed a sort of pack, curiosity fueling their camaraderie. However, as Alex grew more intimate with the artifact, strange occurrences began to unfold. Mia became increasingly anxious, her tech gadgets malfunctioning at odd times. Jamal experienced vivid nightmares that left him restless. Nora, ever the troublemaker, teased that the artifact was bad juju. Tension hung thick in the air. Their light-hearted banter was overshadowed by an unknown dread that seeped into their lives. One evening, as they gathered in Alex's living room, the atmosphere grew heavy. "This isn't just a trinket," Mia said, breaking the silence. "It's like a gateway, but to what? And why do I feel like we're being watched?" "That's not all," Jamal confessed, rubbing his temples. "I've been followed. I swear, there's someone I don't recognize that keeps popping up wherever I go. I saw him at the library, then again at the corner store." Alex's heart raced. They glanced toward the artifact, which lay on the table, not radiating light as it had before, but ominously dormant. "Do you think? Could someone else know about it? Someone who wants it for themselves?" As if in answer, the very atmosphere outside shifted. A sudden gust of wind howled, rattling the windows. Startled, the friends exchanged nervous glances before Alex bolstered their courage. "We need to be proactive. Whatever's out there, we need to confront it." The following day, Dr. Darcy urged them to act with discretion. "You are treading on dangerous ground, Alex. There are those who will stop at nothing to possess the artifact. You must not underestimate their resolve." Over the next few weeks, strange figures began to shadow their movements. The looming threat materialized. Alex spotted a tall man with a crooked smile lurking outside their apartment on more than one occasion, always watching. Dr. Darcy advised them to protect the artifact from prying eyes, guiding them in weaving protective symbols around it, ensuring its power was contained and shielded. Despite the grim atmosphere, moments of bonding and laughter persisted amid the tension. They held late-night strategy meetings filled with half-hearted jokes and pizza, casting away their unease even if briefly. Yet still, the shadow of the artifact's influence loomed large. The lines between reality and power blurred, resulting in vivid daydreams for Alex, dreams where their hands glowed with energy, and they could manipulate the world around them. Such power was intoxicating, yet with each vision came a warning, a reminder of the responsibility resting on their shoulders. Then, one fateful evening, everything changed. The group gathered for a final meeting, tension crackling in the air as they reviewed their plans. Suddenly, the lights flickered, then died, plunging them into darkness. A chill coursed through the room, a sense of impending doom scaling the walls. "We need to get out of here," Mia whispered, panic creeping into her voice. But before they could act, the door burst open, and the tall man from before stepped inside, followed by two others. Their faces were concealed beneath dark hoods, eyes gleaming with malice. "Hand over the artifact," the man said, voice smooth like silk yet filled with venom. "No!" Alex yelled, stepping in front of the table, defiance igniting within them. "You won't take it." The man laughed, a cruel sound that echoed in the darkness. "Child, you have no idea what you're up against. Surrender now, and perhaps we'll let you live." Panic surged through Alex's friends. Nora grabbed a heavy book from a nearby shelf, wielding it as a makeshift weapon. "What do we do?" she shouted. In that moment, Dr. Darcy's teachings resurfaced in Alex's mind. The artifact was more than a mere object. It was a conduit of energy. With a surge of adrenaline, Alex focused all their thoughts on the artifact, feeling its warmth swell in response. Conjuring every ounce of determination, Alex raised it before them. You'll have to get past me first. The air around them crackled with energy, the artifact glowing brighter, as if responding to Alex's will. The hooded figures faltered, glancing at each other with uncertainty as a pulse of energy surged through the room like a shockwave. With a roar of defiance, Alex thrust their hands forward, unleashing the artifact's power. A wave of light erupted from the gem, sending the intruders staggering backward. The powerful gust knocked objects off the shelves, scattering papers and sending a bar stool flying. "Run!" Alex cried, their voice cutting through the chaos. They lost no time. The group scrambled, adrenaline propelling them away from the invading force. As they fled into the streets, Alex could hear exclamations and shouts from behind them, the men scrambling to regain their footing in the rising storm. It was only once they reached the safety of a nearby diner that they collapsed into a booth, shaking and breathless. Alex looked around at their friends, everyone grappling with the aftermath of their narrow escape. "That was insane," Mia gasped, her eyes wide. "We need to get far away from here," Jamal said, glancing out the window at the darkened streets. "They will come after us." "Not just us," Alex replied, weighing the artifact in their hands as it lay in the center of the table. "This world has awakened something. It's not just a piece of history. We have to understand it, what it truly is, before more than just us gets hurt." It was in that moment of vulnerability, amid the threat that lingered, that the group's resolve solidified. They had awakened a force greater than they had ever imagined, and it was up to them to either control it or concede it to those who would use it for darkness. United in their purpose, they steeled themselves for the trials that lay ahead, determined to protect each other and the artifact at all costs. The next chapter of their lives had begun, carved by courage, shadowed by danger, but driven by an unbreakable bond. Together, they would face whatever followed. As the sun dipped behind the distant hills, casting long shadows across the ancient ruins. The atmosphere turned electric with anticipation. Alex stood in the center of the crumbling stone circle, the artifact pulsating softly in his hands, an otherworldly glow spilling out, illuminating the faces of his friends gathered around him. Lara, with her fiery red hair catching the last rays of sunlight, glanced nervously at Ethan, whose brow furrowed in concern, eyes locked on the flickering light emanating from the relic. Max hovered near the edge of the circle, always the cautious one, pacing as if the very ground beneath them was about to erupt. "Do we really know what we're dealing with here?" Max's voice broke the tense silence, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. "This thing could be dangerous. We have no idea what it's capable of." "It's more than just a relic," Alex replied, his voice steady yet filled with a weighty resolve. "It's a key to everything we've been looking for. The legends speak of a power that can change the world, but it can also destroy it if it falls into the wrong hands." Lara stepped forward, a mixture of courage and apprehension on her face. "But why us, Alex? Why did we find this? What makes us the right people to handle something like this?" Before Alex could respond, a gust of wind howled through the ruins, sending dust swirling into the air. The once peaceful evening shattered as shadows emerged from the surrounding trees, figures cloaked in dark garb, their faces obscured but their intentions clear. The air thickened with tension, and Alex felt the weight of the artifact increase in his hands, as if it recognized the impending danger. "Hand over the artifact," a voice commanded, deep and menacing, echoing unnaturally through the ruins. The figure at the front, taller and broader than the rest, stepped into the faint light, revealing a scar running down his cheek. It was Kellen, the leader of a notorious group that had been hunting for the relic for years, undeterred by the myths and warnings surrounding its power. "Never," Ethan shouted, taking a step forward, his fists clenched. "We've come too far to just hand it over. Do you even know what you're holding?" Kellen sneered, a dark smile touching his lips. "That trinket is more than just a key. It's a weapon. And in the hands of someone like me, it could reshape the very fabric of reality." Alex glanced at his friends, the fear in their eyes reflected back at him. This wasn't just a confrontation over an ancient artifact. This was a battle for their very lives and the future they'd envisioned. In that moment, he realized that his understanding of the artifact had shifted entirely. It was not only a source of power, but also a test of their resolve, their values, and the bond binding them together. The ground trembled slightly as Alex took a deep breath, adrenaline coursing through him. "We won't let you take it," he yelled, lifting the artifact high, its glow intensifying with his defiance. Kellen's expression darkened, and with a flick of his wrist, his followers advanced, surrounding Alex and his friends like wolves closing in on their prey. Enough of this nonsense. You don't know what you're up against. In a split second, the atmosphere ignited into chaos. Ethan lunged at Kellen, throwing a punch, but the larger man sidestepped effortlessly, spinning around to counter with a quick jab that sent Ethan staggering backward. Lara screamed as one of the cloaked figures lunged for the artifact, aiming to snatch it away from Alex. He instinctively sidestepped, ducking just in time, and the figure stumbled past him, losing balance. "Max, help me," Alex shouted, his voice barely rising above the commotion. He felt an indescribable connection to the artifact, as if it were feeding off the emotions swirling within him. Fear, determination, and the adrenaline of battle. Max, still pacing, finally snapped into action, grabbing a rock and hurling it at the closest attacker. The stone hit the figure squarely on the shoulder, causing him to turn in surprise. "We need to get out of here," Max yelled, scanning for an escape route. "No," Alex cried, fueled by a surge of energy. "We can't just run. If we do, they'll come after us, and we can't let them have it." The clamor of clashing bodies echoed through the air, shouts mixing with the skirmish as Lara stood her ground, pushing back against an attacker with unwavering bravery. "Together," she shouted, raising her arms to help push back a second adversary approaching Alex. "Did I end the heat of the moment?" Alex felt the artifact pulsating with a rhythm that synced with his heartbeat. He focused, trying to harness the energy flowing through him. Memories of the ancient tales flooded his mind. Stories of people wielding the artifact to protect the weak, to fight for good in a world overshadowed by darkness. Perhaps it wasn't just about fighting. It was about finding a way to unite their strengths. "Lara, Ethan, Max, we fight together." He extended the artifact toward his friends, willing its power to envelop them. With that decision, a wave of light erupted from the artifact, engulfing the ruins in dazzling brilliance. The shadowy figures recoiled, their faces twisted in shock. Alex felt newfound strength coursing through him, and in that moment, he understood the gravity of his responsibility, not just to keep the artifact safe, but to wield it wisely. "Now," Alex commanded, the glow of the artifact illuminating their path. "Follow my lead." But just as they began to push back against their attackers, Kellen lunged forward, his hand outstretched toward the artifact. With a final burst of energy, Alex instinctively struck out, channeling the artifact's power into a protective shield around them. The impact sent a shockwave through the air, throwing Kellen and his followers backward, disorienting them. Yet in that moment of victory, amidst the chaos of their struggle, the ground trembled violently. Cracks began to form beneath their feet, the ancient ruins trembling with a force that felt otherworldly. Alex's heart raced. He had awakened something deeper than he had intended, and now the very ground seemed to protest their presence. "We have to go. Now," he shouted, urgency threading through his words. Stones crumbled around them as dust filled the air. Each of them faced a decision: the risk of staying and fighting, or the chance of escaping with the artifact still in their possession, knowing fully well the danger of Kellen's ominous threat lingering like a dark cloud over them. For a moment they hesitated, voices of doubt swirling alongside the impending doom. But Alex's gaze held firm, filled not with fear but with relentless determination. That Max's voice broke through the din. "Together," he echoed, extending his hand to his friends. A silent vow passed amongst them. As shadows flickered in the twilight, they grasped tightly to one another, the artifact glowing brighter, a beacon of hope amidst the spiraling chaos. With a shared breath, they ran towards the edge of the ruins, the tremors growing fiercer with each step they took. But as they neared the exit, Kellen's roar pierced the air, and Alex turned, a weight settling in his core. "This isn't over," Kellen bellowed, his eyes burning with fierce resolve as the ground continued to shake beneath them. It was clear that their fight was far from finished. It was merely the beginning. In that moment, Alex understood that whatever lay ahead would test the very fabric of their friendship and beliefs. There was no turning back. Pulling the artifact tight to his chest, he knew they would need to face the choices to come together. Balancing the risks against their growing bond, as they fled into the darkness. The artifact pulsed one last time, casting the ruins into shadow, the remnants of a battle left echoing in the winds, and the deeper mysteries of the relic still waiting to unfold. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple, Alex and their friends gathered in the dimly lit hideout they had managed to construct in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. The atmosphere was heavy with anticipation. The artifact, a small, intricately designed amulet, lay on the table in front of them, pulsating softly as if it were alive. Each pulse echoed the escalating tension that had taken hold of their lives since they had unearthed it deep within the forest. "We can't keep running," Alex said, glancing around at their friends. Each face reflected a mixture of determination and fear. "They're getting closer, and we need to figure out how to take control of this thing before it controls us. It's not just the guys chasing us. This artifact, it's drawing them to us for a reason," Layla interjected, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "We need to understand it if we want to stop what's happening." Nate, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed, nodded in agreement. "I was doing some research. There are legends about this type of artifact. Most of them are pretty dark. It seems like it's a conduit for power, and whoever wields it can influence others. That's probably why the people after us are so desperate to get it back." "Influence? Are you saying they want to use it for mind control?" Mia asked, her eyes wide with concern. "Not necessarily mind control, but something close to it," Nate replied. "It amplifies emotions, creates illusions. People can become obsessed with it if they're exposed for too long. We need to protect it or destroy it. But to do that, we have to work together and draw on what we each bring to the table." The group fell silent, absorbing Nate's words. It became clear that it wouldn't be enough just to hide the artifact away. They needed to confront the threat it posed head-on. "What if we set a trap?" Alex suggested, excitement tinged with anxiety coursing through their voice. "If we can lure them in, we might have a chance to outsmart them. Like the old legend about how the town confronted the beast in the forest?" Mia's face lit up with inspiration. "We could use the artifact as bait." "Exactly," Alex exclaimed, energy surging through the room. "We can stage a fake ritual around the artifact. We need to make it look like we're trying to activate it. They'll come for it, thinking they can claim its power. Once we have them in place, we outnumber them. Layla, you and Nate can create a distraction, something loud to make sure they're drawn in." "You mean like fireworks?" Nate suggested, a mischievous glint in his eye. "Something like that, but we need it to be more subtle," Layla added, her mind racing to combine the elements they could harness. "We could use smoke bombs and some reflective surfaces to create illusions. I've dabbled in illusion magic for a school project. I can harness some of that and enhance the ambience. It'll disorient them, throwing them off my scent. Meanwhile," Alex continued, "Mia and I will handle the artifact. We'll create a makeshift altar. It'll look like we're performing a ceremony to summon its power." As they laid out the plan, there was a palpable sense of camaraderie mixed with undercurrents of fear. Each member of the group understood they were risking not just their safety, but their very futures. Yet beneath that fear was the belief in one another, a willingness to stand back to back against a common enemy. The following night, under a crescent moon, they executed their plan. The forest seemed to hold its breath as they moved into position, hearts pounding with the weight of their mission. Layla and Nate lit the ground with improvised smoke bombs, the thick clouds swirling around them, creating an almost mystical backdrop. Alex and Mia stood a little way off, the artifact cradled between them like a fragile treasure. They had fashioned an altar out of gathered stones and twigs, worked over with leaves to give it a more ancient feel. The artifact pulsed gently under the setting moonlight, almost in rhythm with their anxious heartbeats. Suddenly, shouting echoed through the trees. Growls of their pursuers grew nearer. Alex felt a rush of adrenaline. The moment had arrived. "Now, Mia," they cried, placing the artifact atop the altar. "It's time." As the antagonists barreled into their stealthy trap, the air crackled with energy. The disorienting smoke mingled with the gleaming, vibrant reflections they had set up. Illusions danced, creating phantom forms that seemed to mock and taunt the intruders, who stumbled, trying to make sense of the chaos around them. Layla and Nate stood on the periphery, firing off loud noisemakers and tossing more smoke bombs, each pop amplifying the confusion. In the midst of it all, Alex and Mia began to chant words they had found in old texts, hoping to stabilize the artifact's chaotic energy just long enough to contain the threat. But just as it seemed they had the upper hand, betrayal cut through the camaraderie like a knife. One of the adversaries, someone they thought was a mere follower, appeared at the edge of their vision, a traitor in disguise, shoving aside the illusions. Fools, the figure shouted, pointing a finger at Mia and Alex. In that instant, a veil lifted, revealing the truth, a manipulative ringleader who had been playing both sides. Heart dropped. Alex locked eyes with Mia. We need to accelerate this. Before they could react, the antagonists pushed through the smoke, attempting to take control of the artifact for themselves. Nate and Layla charged forward, using everything they had. Get away from them, they shouted, tackling the foes and creating a protective barrier around their friends. In that moment of chaos, Alex understood the true nature of bravery. It was not the absence of fear, but the determination to fight for those you love. Channeling their own fear into a fierce resolve, they bowed their head, focusing on the artifact. You are not alone. We are in this together. The artifact responded, the light intensifying, illuminating the space around them. The power of their combined friendship and courage flared brightly, pushing the antagonists back with blinding intensity. They were overwhelmed, their confidence dissolving in the face of the amulet's newfound strength. In a moment that felt like eternity, Alex felt the pulse of the artifact reach its peak. Together, they shouted, reaching for Mia's hand, intertwining their fingers. The energy surged. Together, Layla and Nate echoed, placing their hands over theirs. Then it happened. A radiant light burst forth, enveloping all of them and driving the intruders away, scattering them into the shadows of the forest, diminishing their threat as they retreated. As the light faded, they stood together, breathless, hearts racing, knowing they had done the impossible. But more importantly, they had forged unbreakable bonds, encountering each challenge as a united force. In that moment, as they embraced, battered but victorious, they realized that whatever the true nature of the artifact was, it had brought them closer. They had faced betrayal, risked their lives, and emerged not just as friends, but as a family that would fight against darkness together. As dawn broke, casting golden rays along the horizon, they knew they still had a long path ahead. The artifact's ultimate fate was still uncertain, but they were ready to face it together. They had learned how to transform fear into strength and uncertainty into hope. Now nothing would stand in their way. Not the artifact, nor the shadows that loomed beyond the tree line. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the relentless waves of the ocean, Alex stood on the cliff's edge, gazing down at the tempestuous waters below. The weight of the ancient artifact pulsed against their chest, its emerald glow now dimmed, confined within the protective casing they had fashioned after their harrowing journey through betrayal, trials, and the ultimate confrontation with the darkness that sought to claim its power. Their friends, Lily, Marcus, and Naima, stood beside them, each bearing their own emotional scars from the encounters they had faced. The shimmering horizon reminded them of the victories they had won, but it also bore witness to the sacrifices that had been made along the way. Remember when we first found it? Naima asked, her voice tinged with nostalgia. We had no idea what we were getting into. Lily chuckled softly, though her eyes were filled with unshed tears. I was terrified, but I'd do it all again if it meant keeping us together. All those adventures, they felt like stepping into a story meant for someone else. Marcus rested his hand on her shoulder, a reassuring presence. We forged our own tale, one filled with courage we didn't know we had. As they all exchanged glances, reflections of their own growth shone through. The laughter, the moments of despair, and the unwavering support that had become the cornerstone of their bond. Together, they had faced monsters both external and internal. They had uncovered the depths of fear and the heights of bravery. Each challenge had chipped away at their insecurities, reshaping them into a tight-knit crew as intertwined as the roots of an ancient tree. Do you think we made the right choice? Alex asked, breaking the silence that had settled around them. In what to do with the artifact? It could have changed everything or nothing. Lily turned to face Alex, her expression steady and sincere. We've seen the effects of unchecked power, the chaos it can bring. Choosing to protect it rather than unleash it shows we've learned something vital. Power is a responsibility, not a privilege. Marcus nodded. It's not just about us anymore. It's about what our choices mean to the world. We stopped the darkness that wanted to use it. We safeguarded it, and that was the most important thing we could do. The artifact now rested in its casing, securely nestled in a reinforced box. They had carefully chosen a hidden cave, one only they knew, deep within the mountains, far from curious hands and malicious hearts. The natural beauty of the cave, with its crystalline formations and shimmering pools, served as a stark contrast to the danger it housed, a solemn reminder of their journey. Naima shivered slightly in the evening breeze, pulling her cloak tighter around her. Despite everything we faced, we grew up. We learned to trust each other, to face our fears, and to fight for what we believe in, even if it means making the hard choices. We did it together, Marcus reiterated, and that's what counts. Nothing can break that bond. The ocean roared beneath them, waves crashing against the rocks, a reminder of life's relentless march. Alex let out a breath they hadn't realized they were holding and turned to face their companions fully. What do we do now? The question hung in the air, potent with possibilities. They all knew their lives would never be the same. Adventures lay ahead, new challenges awaited, but the direction was entirely theirs. Let's make a promise, Naima suggested, her eyes alight with determination. That whatever happens next, we do it together. Whether facing monsters, discovering new worlds, or even just growing old. Let's face it all as a team. Agreed, Lily echoed, with a smile breaking through her somber thoughts. Friends through everything, right? They extended their hands toward each other, a united front. As their palms met, an unspoken vow blossomed there, a promise sealed in trust and love. They could feel the warmth of their connection, stronger than any magic the artifact could unleash. After a moment of silence, Alex spoke up again. And this artifact, our journey into power? We've been touched by it, but it doesn't define us. We'll keep it hidden, but we also have to tell our stories. Just not all of them, Marcus quipped, half joking but with an underlying seriousness to his tone. Some adventures are best left unsaid. With the firmament now ablaze with stars, they settled on the rocky outcrop overlooking the sea, their feet dangling precariously over the edge. The moonlight reflected upon the water like a glimmering pathway, one that seemed to beckon them forward into the unknown. Alex smiled to themselves as they surveyed the canvas of the universe stretching out before them. Their hearts swelled not with fear, but with infinite hope, a sense of all the adventures yet to come. They had faced trial and terror, but they were stronger for it. Let's move forward, whatever that looks like. Together. As the night deepened, so did their resolve. Their pact sealed, they turned their backs on the cliff, their silhouettes framed against the shimmering ocean. The artifact, now resting safely in its secrets, would remain hidden until the world was ready for its truths again. For now, it was enough to know they were guardians, not just of the artifact, but of each other. They started waking back from the edge, laughter slipping into the night, filling the air with warmth. And if you listened closely, through the whispers of the ocean winds, you could hear their dreams unfurling, a promise of adventures yet to come, echoing within the fabric of the cosmos.